Hey, everybody. Jeff Colson from Junior Hockey Advisor here with Mike Bloom, and we're ready to get rolling. Trying to undo my glasses right now so I can put them on, my goggles. All right. It's Junior Hockey Advisor. We're live. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Had the pleasure of talking to you for probably, an hour and a half today?
The longest part of my day by far. Absolutely just nails on the chalkboard, fingernails being pulled off by players, all that to combine. Just a horrible hour.
It was about an hour too long, I think.
Absolutely cannot at all disagree with that. All right, folks. Yes, I still have the
still got the cough.
Okay. This is an open mic night, so we're going to do comedy all night. This is actually Ask Me Anything. There are no topics tonight until you give us a topic to talk about. So we're looking for you to help us. The premise of this show is to talk about junior hockey, talk about the process to get from youth to junior to college. That's our whole gig. We don't have any other agenda except for trying to help you understand junior hockey and help you find different paths and work on different situations and understand all the different situations for junior hockey and moving from 16, 18 on. So hopefully we can help you tonight. We've got a nice little crowd started already. Feel free to put your comments up, and I am going to figure out that little button that puts the comments up on the side again. Every week it's like starting all over again. All right, you talk, Mike, while I do this.
Yeah, so big week in the NHL. Are you following all these different trades that have already taken place over the last day or two, or you only living in the junior hockey world?
Only live in my world, man. I don't follow pro football. You know that. I'll watch the Lions if they're playing. I don't follow the NHL anymore. I won a third Stanley Cup with Detroit, and after that, I was like, I'm good for the rest of my life. If it happens again, I'll get involved, but I don't have time for that stuff. It's all about junior hockey. It's all about the process. So that's where I spend my time. 16 hours a day right here sitting at this desk.
I don't believe that, but yeah, let's go with it.
I don't know why you don't believe that. You have no reason not to believe that.
Well, okay, I believe you and I were talking earlier and you were at the kitchen sink, so.
I went upstairs to get a tea. I told you that. I went upstairs to get a cup of tea. So I left this abode to go upstairs. That's perfectly logical. I don't know why. Why do you gotta like critique every move I make, man? Everything.
Because I know how you get. You get all rattled easily. So I like to show the audience just how I can do that to you.
You do get under my skin easily. That is very true. But once in a while, an accolade would be nice. Like, hey, wow, Jeff, you're on time today. Hey, Jeff, you brushed your teeth this morning. Good job. Anything, anything.
Yeah.
So listen, this is all about trying to help you out, and we've got some comments coming in already. So once again, we like to see comments. We like to see where you're at, who's out there. If you're on our Facebook page, you can go to the chat message and get the restream.io. And if you go on the chat message and get the restream.io, which looks like this, restream.io, never miss a comment, click on the chat message to display it on the screen. So, you can jump on restream.io and actually get on so we see your name. Otherwise, we most likely will just see Facebook user if you're jumping on Facebook, which is okay. That way you can be anonymous if you need to be anonymous. We're not anonymous, so I'm not really sure it's fair that you get to be anonymous if we don't get to be anonymous, but that's another comment for another topic for another night. So I guess we just jump right in.
Let's do it.
Let's see what we got here first. Oh, Danielle, long time participant on our Junior Hockey Advisor site. Says, I know there has been a lot of talk about WHL having conversations with the NCAA. Just curious what things look like for the next season's commits. I'm not sure what you mean as far as next season's commits. Like, Has it changed anything? Like, are you seeing more? I'm assuming you're saying, do you see more commits that are on the NCAA side and not going to the WHL? Uh, I don't know if that's something we've seen yet. Mike, is that how you're reading that?
I think I was reading it more as the maybe the people who had just committed to the school, if those are still going to stand if things all of a sudden change with the WHL. That's kind of how I took it, but um, I honestly don't know what the latest is when it comes to any of the major junior leagues and college NCAA, other than I know that they probably want to get something done. I just don't know how quickly that will happen and what exactly that'll look like.
Yeah. So one thing you can do, this is for everybody, Danielle. The site I would keep tabs on for any instant news on that would be uscho.com or .org. Let me see what that is. I will tell you which one it is. And uscho.com. And the site looks a little bit like this. I will put it up for you so you can actually see it. And that is the USCHO website. Let me get the ad off of there for you. It looks something like this, and it's just got news, and it's got D1 news, D2 news, D1, D3, and it's got women's D1, D3 too. It's got all the polls. It's a great website, but you can see latest news here. This is the NCAA's best news source right off the bat. The other site that has a lot of news that would have that information, we see most of this stuff, but we just haven't seen anything on this topic in the last couple of weeks. So College Hockey Inc. is another site that I would keep tabs on, because if this does break, these are the two sites that would show that. And College Hockey Inc. looks like this, and it does have a news function. Are you seeing this, Mike? Is this coming up?
Yep.
Okay. This is what shows up, and it gives you all the news going on with NCAA tournaments, players, teams, and anything else of that sort. So that's the two sites I would keep in mind looking for information on this. I don't have anything right now that's popping up that I could help you with, and I'm sure Mike doesn't. If I don't, you know the answer to that one. So okay, yeah. Let's see what else. Let's see what else we got. Thank you so much, Danielle. I wished we had a better answer for you. Let's jump into some other ones here. This is gonna be fun. A lot of people putting information up. My 07 has only attended main camp invites for NAL and USHL. Should he also be looking at pre-draft camps as well? Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. I think we might have opposite answers. So, Bloomer, go first on this one.
No, I want you to go first, so that way I can go opposite of you if I need to.
No, I already threw it out there.
You already you always do this where I go and then you get the chance to form your opinion and poke holes in mine.
Rock, paper, scissors. Okay, I'll go first. I personally don't think you need to go to a pre-draft if you're already getting invited to main camps, unless the main camps you're getting invited to are not teams you're interested in. And both Mike and I will take on this subject in a second about knowing which teams you should be going to and talking about that. But I'll let Mike talk about that in a second. My logic on this is, hey, a pre-draft is to get you to the main camp. If you're getting into the main camps that you want to play for, I think you're getting the job done, and if you're in that elite category of getting invites to both USHL and it was USHL, USHL and NAL, I think that I think you've made that, you've proved yourself. That's the best way to put it. Mike?
Yeah, I think I would go against. I wouldn't go against it, but I would just add that I think it is important to go to the pre-draft camps, especially if you're a player that could potentially get either tendered or drafted right from that camp. Because again, these camps that are going to be held are going to usually be a week or two before the NA draft. So if you bypass all of that, you don't get drafted or tendered. Now you're heading into these main camps.
You're going to be at the camp.
Yeah, but you're going as a free agent at that point. So you really have to outperform any of the tendered or drafted players or returning players, because the tie goes to the runner. If there's a tie in ability, then they're going to give it to the player that they've already been talking to. They've already worked to get a tender or drafted them. If you're better than they are, then of course you're going to make the team. You're not going to make it
No.
over, somebody that already has an asset towards them.
Yep.
But,
Yep.
I think for somebody that, is only going to go to main camps, you really have to perform well to beat out any of the other players that have already had an asset in that communication with them in order to make that team. So I wouldn't say only go to pre-draft camps and don't go to the main, but I also wouldn't say bypass all the pre-drafts and only go to main, because you might be missing out on opportunities to already start a relationship with the staff. If you show really well at one of those pre-drafts, they already know who you are heading into the main camp. There's some advantages there.
Is there any signal I got to give you at the 3-minute or 4-minute mark so we can?
Well, I'll give you the feedback I get from a lot of the people who watch our show and says, Jeff
don't
never
give me
lets you talk enough. You need to talk
purposely. That's why. See, that's why.
You suck the air out of the room.
We need to look at this issue like the Supreme Court. You've got the majority opinion, and then you got the dissenting opinion. Okay.
We are the people. We are the people. The people want more Mike and less Jeff.
No, I was talking about the topic you were talking about. Everybody's beyond listening to you anymore. We're talking about the topic. You had an opinion. It's a good opinion. It might be the dissenting opinion, but it's a good opinion. I agree with that. So, I think you had some good information on that. Hopefully that helps you with your 07. And remember, an 07 is still young. It is still young for those two leagues. If you're getting in there, I don't have a problem with what Mike said on that at all. I just think that, 07, if you're getting a main camp, remember in 07, Mike, you'll probably agree with this, in the null, that's not really going to be an option for most. The vast majority of 07s are there to get the experience for the upcoming year, or the year after, I should say.
Yeah,
you agree with that?
Sure. There's,
okay, good.
It's an older league by nature, so there's not as many U16 players that are, going to have opportunities to make a null team directly. So, the other thing is there's such a negative, there's a negative view towards pre-draft camps. So, when you see how these teams run their main camps, there'll be 12 teams and they start, on a Monday. And then by the time you get to Wednesday or Thursday, half the camp has been released from the main camp. And then all of a sudden the actual returners start coming, and then the real main camp starts. So, there's that element too, where it really is a pre-draft camp at the very beginning of their main camp. And then it whittles down to the camp. So, there's a lot of things to look into when it comes to just, hey, I'm going to a main camp type deal. And what does that mean?
You done?
Yeah. What's surprising is you get jealous. That's the surprising part.
I want to get on to the next question. We got a lot of good questions here.
I know.
Come on now.
I know. If only we had like a forum where we were supposed to talk to different people.
If only we had a chance to understand and have a
maybe we'll get there one day.
Self-realization of just redundancy. Okay, Mike, take this one.
Well, I can't even read it, so let's see.
Okay, I'll read it for you. Why would you move your camera over?
Because that's where you listed the words.
You got it goes right across the screens here. I thought it went across both screens. Maybe you don't see that. What's the best way for a Canadian 04 D-man to reach out to NAL? I'm assuming that's NAL because this is the National Association of Hockey Illiterate Players something. I'm assuming he meant NAL though. Teams. So he put NAHIL teams. Thanks. So what's the best way for a Canadian 04 to reach out, Mike?
Well, if you go to any of the different team websites, they should have their staff listed. I would look to see if there's any scouts that they have within your area, or, the head coach or GM is also a good place to start. and just send them an email, craft, who you are and where you've played, and link your elite prospects. And if you have any like quick videos that you can show clips of, your shifts or different things that you've done throughout the year, that's a good way to have a little intro and let the coaches know that you're interested in their program.
So on that note, that's perfect answer. Short. Okay. Get right to the point. I'm interested. Here's who I am. Here's my age. Here's my size. Here's my weight. Here's how I shoot, what position I play. Here's my elite prospects link. And here's a link to my Facebook page that shows some video. Short clips. The old days of saying, oh, you got to show the whole game so you get, the coach gets the full context of your game. No, this is about teasing them with good stuff. So you put your best stuff on there, short little videos. No dad videos, no dad emails. The dad emails are the ones that are 15 paragraphs long and alliterate what first grade was like and the awards he won in first grade and how good he looked when grandma was standing next to him with a picture. No, all that goes away. Short. Yeah, reach out. Just start reaching out. The more you reach out, if you're working with an advisor, have the advisor reach out. Make sure you got video. Go to the team's webpage and see if they've got a place where you can, ask to be, everyone's different, but there'll be a page like, I'm an interested player. I want to be, for example, I want to be a Brahma. I want to be a Titan, whatever it is. Fill out that place so that you're in their database. That'll help quite a bit too. So hopefully that is helpful to you. Okay, let's keep going. You're doing good, folks. Folks, you're responding well with good questions. It helps me make up for a lack of, never mind. I'll take this one, Mike. I'll read the question. You can start the answer. After states, we received an email from a UMass camp claiming to get the kids in front of junior coaches. Is it worth it or another money grab?
Well, it's hard to know specifically about this particular camp because I've never been a part of it or had anyone that has, but there are camps similar to this that actually do provide a lot of different junior coaches or other college coaches that are in attendance. And in those cases, they can be a good avenue for you to get exposure and get noticed. There's also camps that have this same type of promise, and when you get there you realize there's really no one there, and you're not getting the things out of it that you thought you would. So you just have to do your homework in advance to know which type of camp you're getting at. If this is actually from the school specifically, I would have to assume that they're going to have a lot of different coaches and things like that. Like they said, if it's like a random company or a person that's running this, then you kind of have to do your homework to see if you know someone that's done it before and if you really get out of it what they say.
Yeah, I fully agree with Mike. I would say that not even from a coach standpoint or a scout standpoint, on my professional side, going back to my kids, they all receive these at some point during their playing time, especially states and nationals and things like that. They would get invited to some things along the way. I would keep in mind this on that. I give you an example. Air Force Academy invited him, went out there. It was Air Force coaches involved in everything and many other coaches, but they actually worked it into a recruiting process at the same time. Some colleges will give you tours. They'll have a one-on-one meeting with you at the end. Not all. Some will actually have a parent meeting. So there's like a forum where you can ask questions of the coaches. And they actually enhance this with a lot of other things on the college side. So these aren't necessarily a bad thing for just getting the experience of what a college coach acts like, what their job is, how they function as far as recruiting. You can gain a lot out of, I'd say the majority of them, you can gain something, even if they're not recruiting you directly or they don't have as many people there as you expected to be there. I don't see these as a bad thing. I've yet to run across a D1 college, and I'm sure they're out there, but I've yet to run across one that doesn't add a lot of value in the long run, especially for younger players. How's that for an answer?
Yeah, not bad.
Well, thank you. That was an accolade. You're getting good at that. Just
Look
say
at you
positive
throwing around
things.
some big words. You're really
Just
showing
trying
off tonight.
I'm just yeah, I am. I gotta fight for my now I'm worried about my time, just so you know you're like 3 minutes ahead of me in talking. So but we're not counting, we're not tracking that. So let's get to the next one. Okay. CJ, watch the replay when you get home from the rink, please. That's the best comment so far. That is the best comment so far. I don't know if now I'm embarrassed. I watch this. I want to see how bad it is. You know, maybe that's what.
The blooper reel.
What is CJ? Tell me if that's towards us. You know, for us to watch it when we get home. I'm already home, but I'm hoping maybe that's to another person, and you kind of sent that and forwarded that message or something. Let us know. I'm that. If not, and you want us to watch it, that's hilarious. That's just great. So one of the people that we already gave great advice to said, "Awesome advice, guys." Usually says awesome advice, Jeff, but we're not going to get into that right now. Okay, let's see who else is on here. Francisco says, "Good evening." That's okay. Good. See, now I feel better. My confidence is coming back because it was he was tagging his son, but it's still funny. That was very, very okay. We normally don't do this, but we'll let this one come on. Congrats to Kimball Union. Yeah, good job. Congrats. I'm assuming. Oh, you New England champs. That's good. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Anytime, for those that don't know, that's a really nice prep situation. And if you get a chance to go there and win, kudos to you. Awesome to hear. I saw another one of our friends on here that we haven't seen in a while.
Junie.
Yeah. Good to see you, Junie. Been a while. Good to see you there. Okay, let's see here. We've got another one. Did we answer this one yet? Is a Canadian Junior A? Okay, so the question is Canada Junior A, Canadian Junior A, for a U.S.-born player a good path to the North American Hockey League? Mike, you want to start or do you want me to start on this one?
Yeah, go ahead. Take it.
It absolutely is a great option. It's a perfectly legitimate option. I think that it goes in waves. You know, you'll see a few years where you've got a mad surge up to, you know, the C. Now, when we say Canadian Junior A, let's leave the BCHL out of the mix first, and then we can talk about that in a second. Usually, we're talking about the CJHL teams. That's you're talking about going over to the AJHL, which is Alberta. You're talking about Saskatchewan. You're talking about Manitoba. You're talking about the Northern Ontario League. You're talking about the Superior International Junior Hockey League. You're talking about the Ontario Junior Hockey League. You're talking about the CCHL, which is a Central Canadian, I think, but it's a CCHL. It's a popular league. Then you've got the Quebec League, and then you have the Maritime League. Most of those are really good options. Maritime does not get scouted, so that's a league that I'd probably avoid if you're looking to move up as an American. The Quebec League is not very well scouted. Most of this is logistical. You know, it's just hard to get, you know, a coach from anywhere in the Midwest with a Division I team. They don't have budgets to get out to the Maritime. They don't have budgets to get up into Quebec. You have to fly into Montreal and then, you know, drive distances to see hockey. They'll go to Ontario because they can fly into Toronto real quick. They'll go watch CCHL. They'll go watch, you know, OJHL, and most of the teams do monitor those leagues. The SIJHL is a league that's I don't want to say it serves a purpose. Okay, it's a league that usually is 4 to 6 teams. It's split between the U.S. and Canada, but it's not a well scouted league, especially for D1. Rarely do you see. Did you put a hat on?
Keep going.
It's distracting. It's professionalism, and it's a Lions hat. I like the Lions. I'm just saying this is hockey right now. Oh man,
keep going.
Now I'm fully distracted. Now you just blew it, you know. But your Alberta and Manitoba, those are good leagues, and they're watched especially by the northern and midwestern teams in the United States. You get the UP, the Upper Peninsula teams. You get all the way over Minnesota, North Dakota. They all watch those two leagues pretty well. And then you've got the AJ. AJ's going through a little bit of a change. 5 teams moved over to the BCHL. Still a big league, still 10, 12 teams left, maybe 14. I'm not sure what the number is there because they haven't actually went down and counted them. But it's a good opportunity. The AJ still has, the top 3 to 5 teams will still put a lot of players into committed spots or move them into good junior spots like the Null. So one of my children made the move, went up to Camrose, played 1 year, tendered in the Null, played 2 years in the Null. That's, Mike and I are always looking at players, and our scouts are always looking at players that are coming from those areas. So, and probably rank it right now, AJ, I would say that, equally weighted. You can go that the number 2 is probably a tie with the SJ, the MJ, which is Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and probably the CCHL. Number 3 right now, only because of numbers, there's not that many Americans that play in the OJHL unless you play for Buffalo. That's the one American team, has few Americans in it, and that's historic. That's all statistical. You can look at all that stuff and do your own homework on it. Then we'll talk after Mike gives you his thoughts. We'll talk about the BCHL for a second on that. Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I was going to rank them right before you did, and I would say the exact same thing. I would say 100% if you're playing in the AJ, and you're an American player, moving from the AJ to the Null is a great step. It's a great progression, and it happens fairly frequent. Same thing when it comes to the MJ and the SJ. Similar. I think the AJ is, like you said, a little bit further ahead when it comes to total talent and things like that, but it's comparable. So when you take those 3 leagues, I think when you see players moving from one league to the other, not only are they able to make the transition, but they actually can excel. They do pretty well within the league. And then you get into like the CCHL or the OJ, like that tier of juniors, players are able to make the jump. They may just like be on the bubble, like they're just kind of hanging on. They found their spot on the team. You have to be like an exceptional CCHL player in the CCHL to come into the Null and also tear it up. I think Rochester actually had a couple players that they took this past year to fill out their team that actually have been very good players that they got from the CCHL. So it comes over, but where you kind of rank on the team as you kind of walk down those leagues, you're kind of walking down that roster also of like, you used to find a kid from the MJ that was a really good player and he'd come over and he'd be a top line player in the Null and do really well and get his college commitment and then kind of move on. And then as you go to like the CCHL or the OJ or somewhere else, again, those players may make your team, but they're not making significant impacts. Sometimes that does change, like we gave the example of Rochester, but that's kind of how I look at it. And then when you get into the NOJ or the Northern Ontario Junior Hockey League, there's less players that are able to make that jump. There's very few, and you can kind of do your own research on elite
Less Americans too, just in general. There's less
Americans. There's not many even there. But even if you're a Canadian kid that wants to make the jump, it just is, it's not as easy to go from that league to make a Null team. And then the other leagues that you mentioned below, they're even fewer and far between. So you have to be, Canadian Junior A, like we just went through, has 6, 7, 8 different leagues in it. There's tiers within that Junior A, category that you just have to be mindful of because it doesn't apply to just any team that's in Canadian Junior A.
Yep, I agree with that. And we're not just talking, out of our ears on this. Take away the SIJHL and the Maritime. I've been to the majority of the rinks watching these junior teams in their own barns. So I've got a good assessment of this. And between Mike and I'm sure we've covered most of these places. So the other part of that is the BCHL. The BCHL is still a junior A. It's an independent now. It's not part of the CJHL anymore. 3 seasons now? Is it 3 or 2 that they've been out?
2, I think.
2 seasons. Okay. This is probably absolutely statistically is still the best bet out of all the Canadian junior A leagues. BCHL's numbers, you're talking about 12 to 14 kids on average per team that are committed Division I players by this time of the year. Once again, don't just hear me. You can go look this all up. You can look it up on Elite Prospects. You can see this information on by going to College Hockey Inc. and looking at the instead of looking at individual players, you can look at the actual teams and see this information. In fact, you mind if we do that, Mike? You want to take a look real
Sure.
quick over there? And
Let's take it
if you
for a
don't
spin.
mind, let's take it for a spin. So we're going to go up there and we're going to go to College Hockey Inc., which is there. Okay, so if we go into College Hockey Inc. and we grab two commitments. So we're going to NCAA recruiting, going down to commitments. And the way to sort this so you can get this information and know is to go to current team. Now, remember, this is the current team the player's on. So if the kid committed when he was 16 and he committed when he was playing for the Oakland Grizzlies out of Detroit, and now he's playing in the null, it's going to show his null team. It's not going to show the original team he committed with. So, but this is a good place. Go to current team, hit that button. Now you'll see on the list, it shows the USA national development teams over here on the left. So your U17, U18 commitments are all there. Then it goes right into the USHL. So we got Cedar Rapids, Steel, Des Moines. It goes through all of the USHL teams, which you can see they're all, fairly loaded up with Division I talent, as they should be. And then after that, let's get through Tri-City, Waterloo, Youngstown. It goes right into the null. So the null starts with Aberdeen. They're in alphabetical order. Anchorage, then you've got your Austin, Bismarck, and you can see all the teams. Slightly less on the commitments, but almost every team. I would imagine this time of year, all the teams are represented. But you can see the difference on that across the board. As soon as you're through all of the teams in the null, it goes right into the BCHL. And now when I say 12 to 13, or 12, 14, look at this. Abrini is the first on the list. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. Now, Blackfelds is the new, they just came up from the AJ, so they're going to be a little bit shy of that. Brooks just came over from the AJ, and they're right up there already. But you look at the list, when I say that it's going to be, 12, 14, there's very few exceptions to it. There's a couple right there exceptions, but you'll make up for it with some of these other teams. So this is the second right now. They have this per team average. They're the second best of the USHL with per team average. Now, hopefully that helps a little bit. You can get there and see that there's a huge opportunity there if you can make one of those teams. And there's no better time at all to play in the BCHL if you want to be there, because you're in a situation where there's 5 teams that just came over from the AJ. They're going to need talent, and they're going to need a lot of talent. So I would suggest that if you're Canadian or American, if you can make one of those new teams, I think you're in a really good spot. So now keep in mind, the null numbers are a little bit different right now. By the end of the playoffs and by the end of the national championship for the null, a lot of those teams will catch up to the BCHL teams, because the null tends to be a late league for getting their commits. They're the latest, and it's only logical. USHL, if there are any openings, they get committed to pretty early in the year, and there's not any room for them to get players. BCHL, you saw the rosters. There's not many kids there that really need commitments. Now the null is the league where there's opportunity. A lot of uncommitted players, they start filling up towards the end of this year. And that also is contingent on the portal. When players transfer out, it might open up an opportunity for a coach to pick up a late pick out of a null team. It can also just be, a kid gets injured, kid gets hurt, academically ineligible. All those things factor in. So, hopefully that answered the question. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I think when you come to trying to track the different commitments, when you look at the USHL and the BC League, in many cases, those kids were committed when they were playing AAA. So their lists are always going to be larger because they've already had a group of guys committed beforehand, and then they'll get a few more during the year. But the null, for the most part, most of the kids that are playing in the league were not one of the kids that were committed early. So They have to get their commitment while playing in the league, which is why, it takes usually later into the year before you start seeing those trickle in. You're starting to now, like if you're
Yeah.
tracking the
Yep.
null, they're like once January hits and you get into February and March and then through the playoffs, you start seeing a lot more commitments start to happen. So that list will grow for the null too.
Give credit due to the prep schools. 50% of the BCHL's commitments happened, like Mike said, in youth, but a lot of them are coming from 50% of them are actually coming from the prep schools too. So give credit due there, and that's a different kind of player. Those players are usually one and done kids at some of the better D1 programs, so they'll get their commitment when they're playing for maybe Kimball. We talked about that a little earlier. I'm just throwing it out there because that was already on the talk today. They'll get their commitment there. They'll go up to the BCHL. There's always been this relationship between preps and the BCHL, and they'll make a choice. A lot of the players will choose not to go to the USHL, but to go to the BC. It's a little more open game. It's a little more offensive, and they get up there, they play 1 year, and they go straight to college versus USHL kids and especially null kids, AJ kids. Those are kids that are going to play 2 or 3 years of juniors, except for the best of the best in the USHL that pop out of there after 1 year. But the BC just has that reputation of being a one and done league. I don't know why that is. Mike, do you?
Well, I think when you compare the kids in the USHL versus the BC league, I think a lot of the kids enter the USHL at a younger age.
Could
The
be.
prep school kids kind of wait until they're graduating and then
That
they
is
go,
very
so they
true.
are a
Yeah.
little bit older.
Yeah, they're already older going in. So that's a good point. I'm glad you're here. Just one time tonight where the value added, so you earned your hat. You can wear your hat. So
Oh, well, thank you, Jeff.
All right, let's go on to the next one. Can you read this, Mike, or you want me to read it for you? You got this one.
Can a goalie be affiliated to too many teams? My 07 AA goalie is affiliated to both a U18 AAA and a junior B team.
Okay. You got it? You want me to take it?
Well, I'm honestly not sure. I know the way that it works in Illinois, you can only be affiliated on one team and have one roster certified with you on it. So it wouldn't apply to how it's run here in Illinois. So you might want to throw like what state you're in because the way they kind of work that is different.
I don't know if you can really be that affiliated to a junior B team. You're either rostered or you can be a non-rostered player that actually, goes to their practices. But in most junior B leagues, depending on, where you're at in Canada, I don't profess to be an expert on Canadian junior B and what the rules are as affiliation goes. In the States, we really aren't running any junior Bs anymore. I don't know of any junior B league at all. It's tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, with tier 3 being what used to be our junior B. Well, inside of tier 3, it used to be our junior B and junior C levels. It's all kind of combined in there now. It's convoluted. Now, you can be an American on it and be affiliated with a U18 team. Is an 07. That's perfectly legal. And like Mike said, as far as qualifying for states and nationals, every district has a little bit different nuances on the rules about, who you declare with, and goalies have the ability to, in some of the districts, to have a backup status. And, okay, I get that. But, basically you affiliate to one team. The junior B thing, I'm not sure if this sounds more like a Canadian question. So I'm going to back off of that and not try to answer that. You can add some more information if you want, but I don't know the answer on Canadian junior B. I don't deal with Canadian junior B very much. We rarely, next to one league, which is between Sarnia and between Niagara Falls, there's only one league, and that's right there that gets any kind of attention from anybody that I know of in college hockey or junior hockey, unless there's something I'm missing, Mike.
No, I would think that we either need some more information or it's kind of hard to track how things happen from a youth perspective because it's different per state, or obviously if it's a different country, the way that they run it. But, I would imagine as an 07 AA goalie, you're a U16 AA player to also be affiliated with a U18 AAA team. is a little bit unique, I would think, and it must be on like an e-bug, like an emergency backup type situation.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's kind of confusing why they
Well,
would do
send that
that.
information to us. You can send it to our PO box, and we'll okay, let's jump on to the next one. By the way, we've had a pretty good audience. Even when you're speaking, the numbers are staying up tonight, which is rare. So that's good. It's real good. Try this one, Mike. See if you can handle this one.
You give me the paragraph.
I'll read it to you. My 05 is wanting to play juniors and has been contacted by NAL teams as well as NA3 teams. The NA3 says that he's NAL caliber, but those calls have all stopped. I'm assuming that the NAL calls have all stopped. Do we just wait things out until the draft, or what do we do from here? Also, was given advice that it stopped. I can see if there's more to it here. Doesn't look like there's. Also, was given advice that he is beyond needing to go to pre-draft or the NAL combine. Okay, might give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, I guess taking this as it's written is at first, they were contacted by NAL teams, and maybe that's dried up a little bit. So the NA teams have kind of maybe taken more of the precedent lately. So when it comes to that, it would be very difficult to have the mindset that you're a NAL player, having a lot of those conversations dry up. And that could be, more viewings throughout the year is kind of giving them the thought that if anything, you're more of a free agent, coming into main camp trying to make the team rather than someone that they would maybe give a tender to. Maybe draft is still a possibility. So maybe reaching back out to them to kind of gauge where their interest level is at today would be helpful for you guys to have a better idea of where he's at. But I would also start, talking more to those NA3 teams, engage their interest, because if that is where he ultimately ends up, you want to be able to do your homework and find out, okay, not every team in the NA3 is created equal, both from the player experience, both from the player development, and both from the player advancement. And if you truly do want to be an NA player and you're just not ready to do that right now today, or, right now to start next year, he only has 2 seasons of junior hockey before he's going to age out. So you want to give him the best opportunity to find the right program that will help him reach those goals, or at least give him a chance to make that happen. So now's your chance to not maybe ignore the NA3 and think like, I'm only considering NAL, because you might find out I can't make the NAL, and now I'm scrambling to figure out what NA3 program I can play at. Whereas if you did your homework during this process, maybe it's all for nothing and he does make a NAL team. That's great. If he doesn't, then you at least know, okay, here's our plan B, here's our plan C, and maybe here's our plan D, depending on how things kind of transpire. And plan, A, B, and C could be NAL, it could be NA3, it could be a different junior league, it could be, a bunch of different options, but now's your time to do your homework.
Yeah. So there's a couple things there that first of all, one of the reasons why Mike and I spent so much time on the phone today is because we're going to try to put together over the next week or two a little bit more of a clearer picture on the NA3. The NA3 has a lot of players that play in the NAL. And there's quite a few. We went through the list today and we're just trying to figure out a way to break it down. But we're going to try to put a list together that sees if there's a correlation between a NAL team that has their own direct relationship with an NA3 team. In other words, the same ownership, maybe in the same building too, and to see what kind of direct correlation there is between those. Is it an advantage? We think it's an advantage. The organization we work for has an NA3 team in the same building as the NAL team. So, as far as a player being able to come up and play, sharing information as far as the coaching staffs, having kids come out to practice that are on the NA3 team, that happens all the time. But we don't have quantifiable facts to say that the team that's has a 50-mile distance between them aren't doing the same thing. Now, it would be logical to me that it's harder to do it the further away the two teams are. I know Odessa has their affiliates in Atlanta. Odessa, Texas, and Atlanta is not a quick hey, get off the ice of the null team and jump over to the your original NA3 practice. It doesn't work that way. So some just logistically won't work. But we're going to try to get you some information on that to try to help. Everything else Mike said. The only thing I want to comment on is um, if he was given advice to not attend things, and you have the opportunity to attend things like a pre-draft or a null combine, I wouldn't listen to anybody's advice, because the worst piece of advice you can get is, oh, if he's good enough, they'll find him. I would say put yourself out there in every situation until they sign you, or you're drafted, or you've got a tender, and you got a roster spot. So anybody that's telling you, you're too good for that, I can tell you, we always find kids at our pre-draft that get invited to main camp. And the track record over the last 5 years of players that have gone from our main camp to our null team is tremendous. And not all of them go straight to the null team. Some of them go to the NA3 team, spend a few games all the way up to a season, and then actually make it to the null team. So different avenues all over the place. I would never listen to somebody that says, you're too good for that. You're too good for a tryout? Okay. Take the advice you want, but it doesn't make any sense at all to me. Any chance you get to get on the ice and showcase your abilities, I think you take. Not too within reason. I mean, I don't think you do 5 pre-drafts. You do 1 or 2, maybe 3 if it fits in your schedule and everything works out right, and yet you're not compromising anything else to do them. What is it going to hurt you? You're getting ice time, you're getting to compete, and you're getting in front of different people. So, Mike, anything else before we jump on to the next one?
No, I think we covered that.
Okay. All right, next one here. 06 goalie, played USPHL Premier last season, 12 games. Looking to next season, USPHL versus U18 AAA versus NAL/NA3. Me or you?
Go ahead.
Take NA3 off there right away, unless you have an avenue there right away, because if you're an 06 and you're not already, on some kind of track or being talked to or have, an invite in your hand, that's going to be tough. That's going to be real tough. Not saying it's not doable, but, build the burden hand first. What's the burden hand? USPHL is fine, but remember, there's 2 different kinds of junior leagues. There's a league of destination, meaning they want to keep you in the mix all the way through. A USPHL Elite wants to keep you to Premier. Premier wants to keep you to NCDC. That's what they do. The EHL, that's a league of destination. They want you to play out your 2 or 3 years of juniors in that league. They're not looking to promote outside. BCHL, for the most part, is a league of destination. The rest of the CGHL, some of the coaches might want their team to be a destination team that doesn't allow you to move up, but the CGHL is designed to let you move up to the BC, to let you move up to the North American Hockey League, to the USHL. The North American Hockey League, the NAL, is a league of opportunity. They let you move up if you're USHL ready. They're going to promote you, and they've got that relationship with the USHL. They expect you to move up. So when you're looking at your choices there, the USPHL does at premier level, that is, doesn't have as much of an influence on the NAL. So you go in that league, you're not gonna be scouted, for the NAL, for all intents and purposes. There might be a rare scout that walks through and runs into the rink and runs into the glass, and you happen to be making a great save at the time, and he goes, "Eureka! I found my goalie." But it's going to be a rare situation. U18 has 2 goalies. USPHL teams have 3 to 5 goalies. Okay. Be careful there. If you're still young and you can play on a quality team, meaning in a quality league, you have a better odds of getting a lot more ice time, unless you're just absolutely guaranteed the number 1 spot on a junior team. That would be the reason I go to a junior team in any of the leagues, the NA3, the EHL, or the USPHL Premier. If you can get an opportunity on a great U18 team that's exposed, because that's the big difference. None of those teams in the juniors are being watched by us. Okay. We're not going to EHL games to watch the EHL. We're not going to the Premier League to watch Premier teams. And the NAs we already have relationships there. So the NA of those would be your best bet. But U18 always has junior scouts around. Every showcase, there's junior guys in the building. Now, a lot of these coaches, I walk into practices. I walk into practice in Buffalo. I walk into practices here in Rochester. I walk into practices in Detroit, and I know the coach, so I can walk up and watch the practice and say, "Hey, how's it going?" Coach will skate over, lay on the board, and say, "Watch this kid, watch that kid, watch this kid." You're not seeing that in junior hockey. You're not, there's nobody in the NUL or the USHL that's going out to watch a premier game. It's just the way it is. Now somebody's going to put on there, there's that one guy. Okay, yeah, you got me. There's one guy out there that's doing it, but it's just for the most part isn't happening. Mike, what do you want to add to that?
Yeah, well, I think, there's a lot of things you said that I agree with, so I don't want to keep going over it, but in like anything else, right? If you're talking about, okay, do I return to a USPHL Premier team? In the last episode we talked about the differences between just two teams that played against each other, and not only what the caliber of that roster was, but what the opportunities would be afterwards. So again, you have to look at, well, what is the caliber of that option you would consider? Well, there's 50, 60 some teams in USPHL Premier. So that
Right.
matters. The league doesn't matter, but the team within the league matters. When it comes to U18 AAA, you're talking about 200 possible teams. So again, if you're somewhere in that top 30, 35, best team, maybe even expanded to in the 50s, 60s, that might be a good opportunity. But again, you have to be able to play. So if you're a number one or maybe a number two, maybe that's the option. So you have to kind of look deeper than the league or the level and know what is the program and where do I fit within that program to make your decision with
100% on. And we say this all the time. Look at the league, find the best team in the league you can play for. So if I can play tier 1 elite, even if my hometown has a team and that team's 110, the sacrifice might be I've got to go 200 miles away and play for a team that's in the top 40, top 30, top 20. Okay. That's why you see so many kids go to Detroit. So many kids go to Chicago. They go to the major teams because there's opportunity there to be in the top 10 and the top 20, more exposure. Remember, scouts don't walk into the building and go, "Hey, I want to go watch that 140 team play that 89 team." What they do is they go, "Hey, I got a 2 against 6 playing. I got the number 1 team playing the number 5 team." That's what they walk in to see first. If they happen to walk around and see a couple of the games, then it's all chance because they're always going to gravitate towards the best teams, period. Nature of the beast. That's the way things work. Okay, let's jump on another one. Here's a great question. Mike, take it.
Is it necessary to have an advisor? And if so, at what age? Jeff, this is your wheelhouse. Take it away.
I'm ready for this one. We're going to have fun with this one. No, you don't need an advisor. You can play good hockey and do everything an advisor does yourself with the help of a solid coach, with the help of some parents that have some extra time, and a triangulated group. Maybe if you have a power skating instructor, leaning on them to help you with this process. There's a lot of ways to do this without having an advisor. And so there's areas where you absolutely need an advisor. Okay, Connor Bernard, he needed an agent, not an advisor. If you're that good, if you're a 16 through 18 player that is like already getting that look for being an NHL player, you're taken care of. They're going to be reaching out to you. So don't worry about those. If you're that level, okay. The next level down is the National Development Program. Once again, a kid going in, if you're getting invited to the National Development Program, you can get away without having an advisor because as soon as you're on that team, 99% get commitments. So the only difference would be having an advisor kind of helping you through and guiding you through what's a really good offer and what's not a good offer as far as the levels of the team. Because remember, when you get to D1 hockey, it's no different in D1 hockey than looking at the junior leagues. There's the elite teams out there, and you probably know those teams. It's usually Boston College, Northeastern, Michigan, Minnesota, North Dakota. And I'm missing,
Denver.
8 to 10 teams. Yeah, the teams. They're always perennial powerhouses, and they're always loaded with draft picks. And those are the teams. And also follow where the national development players go. That tells you what the best teams are. And, if a team's got 8 national development players on it, the odds of you getting on there, if you're not a national development player, is tougher because they're taking up a third of the team. So, now you don't need them at that level. They're a benefit at that level. Then there's that next level down of player that knows he's going to be a Division I hockey player, or I shouldn't say knows. Nobody knows for sure, but you're getting that attention that Division I players get. Advisors come in handy to help guide you, but they're not necessary. If you know what you're looking for academically, if you know where you want to be playing at as far as the size of the school, if you know what region of the country you want to be in, some of that stuff's pretty easy for players. Like, hey, I want to stay in Michigan. I'm a Michigan guy. I want to stay in the Midwest. I'm from Minnesota. Okay, a lot of those questions are real easy. I'm an East Coast guy. I'm going to stay on the East Coast and play for one of the teams. But there is one league that's not at the same level as far as output. Now, we do the same thing. We judge junior teams by how many D1 commitments they have. That's a way of, the litmus test of how good a team is year after year after year. The same thing happens at college. Colleges judge themselves on how many NHL players they have output for and come from those teams, their output. So if you're in a school that perennially puts, 3 or 4 guys into the NHL, that's high. Puts 2 guys, 3 guys into the NHL every year. That's a premium school. There's one league, and you can do the homework on this yourself. I'm not going to berate a league that doesn't put NHL product out at all at the Division I college level. So you just have to do your homework to make sure you know what you're looking at. And advisors on the low end, on the low end, they can help a lot. If you're not finding a junior team and you've exhausted all means, a quality advisor comes into play and can do a lot for you. Now, the things you have to look for in an advisor is you have to look for an advisor that matches what you're looking to do. If a guy just does West Coast Canadian advising and you call him up and say, hey, what is he going to want you to do? He's going to want you to play on a West Coast junior team. At whatever level you're at, he's going to want you to look at West Coast things for Canadian hockey. He might not fit. A guy that spends all of his time on prep players may not be a good fit for you if you're not looking to go to prep schools. However, if you're looking for prep schools, you want that prep guy, that advisor that spends all of his time looking at prep models and trying to get you on the path through a prep school. So, do you need an advisor? Absolutely not. There's nothing an advisor does that there's no certification to be an advisor. There's no test you have to take. There's no license to be an advisor. Some advisors don't have real big hockey backgrounds. I've seen advisors that were literally, in the media. They were reporters that became advisors. And I'm not saying they're good or bad. I'm just saying they came from that way. I've seen guys that have never played hockey that are advisors. So you have to do your homework on this. Where do you go to start on that process? You go to Elite Prospects. They've got a button you click and it shows you all the advisors. And we've already done a couple of videos on that in the last few weeks. Mike, did I get all that?
Yeah, you did. And I think, the biggest point that I'll reemphasize that you had said was, your coaches that you have, different people that are around you, in many cases, they can really help you through that process. Your coach specifically, there's not a player that plays for me or, a lot of the other coaches in our program that we want to have hiring other outside people, because that's our responsibility as their coach to try to help connect those dots for them. And there's many coaches that share that same philosophy. But I guess if you had a coach that either maybe wasn't well connected or didn't want to put in that effort for their players, that doesn't mean they're a bad coach, but maybe that's just their mentality when it comes to that type of stuff. Maybe then that's when you have to start reaching outside and looking for other things. So, for the most part, you should be taken care of.
And with or without an advisor, the best thing you can do is to create a short synopsis of what you are as a player and triangulate it. So my power skating coach, my skills coach, my coach from high school, my junior coach, when somebody asks them a question and you have to help build this, your advisor, that they've got like a 1 or 2 sentence description of you that matches. They don't all have to say the exact same thing, but hey, look, the kid doesn't stop. Okay. That's the image you want to give. And you want that to be said by 2, 3, 4 different people. The kid he's got a motor. If you hear that, that means the same thing as doesn't stop. The kid grinds and he works his ass off in the corners. If you got 3 or 4 people that could possibly be your references that a team's, calling to talk to, and they're all saying the same thing, that makes the job 10 times easier, because by the time, that coach gets done talking to some other people about you, and then he sees you play, he goes, oh yeah, that's that kid they talked about that's got the motor. I want to see him, play now. And he's looking for that out of you. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Triangulate that information.
Just to tie in, two of the other things that we talked about, I've never seen a situation where a kid might say, or a family might say, thank God we hired this advisor, because that's how we got into, let's say, the North American League. If that player didn't have the ability to play in the North American League, it doesn't matter if they had an advisor or not. So if your ability is such to where you can play in that league, to your original point when we talked about these camps, if you don't attend the camps, well, how are they going to see you? They're not just going to find you. But if you had no advisor and you attended these camps and you were a good enough player to play in the null, these coaches would be like, holy crap, who's this kid? We need to bring him to our main camp. We need, he needs to continue to play through our training camp. And all of a sudden he makes the team because of his ability and being seen in those events. Whether he has an advisor or not is irrelevant. It's the ability that they have. And by participating in those events is why that player, whether he had an advisor or not, ended up making the team and playing in the league.
Most advisors that are qualified and respected can call up a team and get you on the ice with that team to get you looked at. Okay. That's the qualified, respected ones. That's a small percentage. That's a very small percentage of advisors. No matter what they tell you, pardon my French. Okay. This is not politically correct, but you have to have some balls when you hire an advisor. All right. You got to be able to sit down and look them in the eyes and say, hey, pull out your phone. Tell me the last 4 Division I coaches you talked to. Tell me the last 4 Division III coaches you talked to. Tell me the last 4 coaches in the NAL or the BCHL you talked to. And the ones that go, I'm not going to do that, are probably not, if you're at that level. Now, once again, if you're at a lower level, adjust that accordingly. Adjust those leagues down to D3 if you have to. But once again, that's why you're hiring. You want to hire for D3 if that's where you're headed. You want to hire for D1 if that's where you're headed. But don't be afraid to ask those questions. The other thing I'd be very careful of with advisors, when they start giving you answers before you ask the question, or that first meeting, they've already given you a solution to your problems. They haven't seen you play yet. You only talked to them once on the phone, and they're already telling you, oh, I can get you over here. I can get you over there. I can get you over there. You deserve to play over there. Just be very careful with that. That's not the situation you want. You want a guy that's going to do a thorough, honestly, you want a guy that comes and watches you before he has a conversation with you. You set an appointment with a guy for 2 weeks, 3 weeks out, and he goes, hey, I had one of my guys go out and watch you. I went out and watched you. I saw this tape on you already. I got a sense of where you're at, but I want to talk to you some more. That's the guy you want, or the woman you want, depending on what advisory firm you're using. So hopefully that helps.
I don't want people to think that we're completely trashing advisors, because you and I know that there's certain advisors that do things the right way, that we look forward to talking to them about the players that they have in their client list, because not only do they give us a really good evaluation of that player, but we trust their evaluation and they don't steer you wrong. And, we deal with a lot of those people, but when we say we deal with a lot of them, that's because we've filtered out probably, 85% of these other advisors that are just taking people's money and not really delivering the type of service that they need. So it's like the world that we live in from the team perspective, we do like a lot of these advisors, and it is a value to those families. But again, those are like, I don't know what the percentage is, but they're fewer than the amount of total advisors that are out there. So
yeah, it's probably safe to say that we get somewhere near a half a dozen players that work through an advisor to get to us a year. But we also work in a program that any advisor that sends a list of players, we're vetting that list. It takes a hell of a lot more time to do that. But then we might vet it from that advisor once. We might vet it from that advisor twice. But if we consistently see that guy's saying, oh, this guy's a Division I player, and the guy's playing ACHA hockey, there's a certain period of time where you finally start going, nah, that's not for us, But we literally, it really doesn't matter which advisor gives us information. We're going to track it down and see what we think about it. I think we kicked that one to death. All right, let's go. A couple more, then we got to go. We've got a great audience still, but we're only going to go a couple more questions because we've been at it for quite a bit of time now. We're just past that hour. How many more Division I programs do you think we'll have in 3 to 5 years, 10 years? Who knows? I mean, right now, Mike, you want that one? Take that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of different programs are trying to, like the Big Ten is still trying to get either Illinois or Iowa or Northwestern or, one of these other programs, Indiana maybe to create another team. I know UNLV is got a really good club D1, team that they have that they're trying to go down the same model as Arizona State and Penn State did and turn that into a Division I team. I think Oregon, and some of the teams out west are, UCLA, USC, they're all trying to do something similar. It takes time to be able to do that and get awarded that. So, like I said, in Illinois, where we're at, Illinois, University of Illinois was like on the path where it almost was like a shoo-in that this was going to be the next team to get a D1 opportunity and whatnot. And it fell through, and COVID pushed it even further aside. So who knows if that ever gets back on track. That's happened with other programs. So I guess the point of it is they are trying to grow more teams. How many actually are able to do it? I don't know. In the next 3 years, maybe one, maybe two. So we'll see.
Yeah. I can say this, we'd have had 4 to 6 more teams already if it wasn't for the pandemic. There was 3 teams that were literally everything was in place. The money was in place. The big sponsor or the big donor was in place. And it was just if this school goes, this school's going, this school's going, boom, boom, boom. And it was all lined up. Pandemic hit, we lost it. We went back. And I don't know how long it'll take us to recover to get it. I'd love to see us get over 100. We're at the 80 something right now. I don't know what the actual number is right now, but it's in the low 80s. So love to see it happen. All right, let's say how many more questions you want to do, Mike? Because we've got
2 more.
2 more. Okay. Let me see if I can find a good one. While I'm looking, I'll give, so we've done lots of shows on exposure camps, good showcases over spring and summer. I can tell you right now, if you're looking to do it, if you're looking to do showcases outside of, obviously junior camps are the best ones. I'm going to answer this without throwing it up, Mike, just to kind of get this out of the way real quick. Martin, the question about what are some good exposure camps? Hey, look, it's still East Coast showcases. There's a good event in Denver. There's some things in Detroit that are outside of, individual teams or individual leagues, but there's showcases. Don't worry about advisors showing up because most of these showcase teams are coached by full-time professional staffs now, meaning, you see these things that are playing in the junior or the pre-draft out of Boston. You see them playing in the Chowder Cup. These coaches now, it used to be dads coaching these teams. Now these teams are coached by guys that own the teams and spend all year recruiting these teams. They know Division I coaches, they know junior coaches, or they're involved directly with a junior program. So now it's a matter of they publicize their team and they actually work, as a quasi advisor for those kids, throughout the year. And you'll see kids that start playing with these teams at 14, 15, 16, and they stay with them all the way up until they get their commitment. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Let's see here. This one says, I think there is a different link that the one they're answering questions from. Not sure what link it is. I don't think they're looking at these comments. Well, I guess I am looking at these comments. So thanks, Mike. But maybe I'm jumping around answering questions. So if I didn't get to yours, sorry about that. We'll try to get to as many as we can. Can you please explain what a prep school is for Canadians? This is basically a private school with a hockey program. Is it like the CSSHL, where there is a league, or who do they play? That's a great question. Mike, you want this one or you want me to take it?
Yeah, you're more familiar with Canadian youth hockey, so go ahead.
So the best way to do this, I would say, is to go to my hockey rankings. So if I go into my hockey rankings, I'm trying to reach over to a board right now. The keyboard to do this with it is not my typical one. Okay, let me pull that up and show you my hockey rankings. So once again, we'll go in here on my hockey rankings. If you go over to the team rankings here, you'll see that there's high school. I believe they hide the prep under high school now. Let's see if I'm right or wrong on this. It's been a couple weeks since I've been on here. Okay, so there's boys prep. You see in the middle under the first red line here on my hockey rankings, it says New England prep, independent prep, Canadian independent prep. So there's your prep leagues. New England prep is your traditionals. This means that these are a lot of the old school. Some of these are, they're the kind of got the Ivy League feel to them. And here's all your names, and not all of them do, but some of these are very elite. You got to do your homework on which one you take. But when we talk prep schools, for the most part, we're talking about these, and these are the Cushings, the Kimballs, the Holderness, Avon, Old Farms. You can go down the list. And you've got most of these schools have got a great track record, and even getting into the lower levels, these names that are in the 40 and 50 range, all the way down the list. There's schools that will get you into junior and college hockey up and down the list. You got to do your homework on this. So that's the first part of it. You get over into the second part, the independence. This is where your Shattuck is going to show up right off the bat. Northwood up in the Lake Placid area of New York. Culver has got a military background to it. North Star Christian, good school in Minnesota. Gilmore, it's in Ohio. These are the independents, and they play like Nichols Prep is in Buffalo. They play a Canadian. I believe they play. I'll show you in a second, but here's your list of American independents, and there's a good list of 22 programs. Once again, down at the bottom, some of them are new or some of them don't have the same record. You start getting into the Tahoe preps and the CDAs. Some of these have just come out in the last few years, don't have the same reputation as a Shattuck does on the top. So this list here is not a league. This is just the independents. Shattuck plays a schedule that's one of the better schedules in the league, in the nation or in North America. It's not necessarily going to see some of these teams that are on the bottom of the list. They're playing other independent schedules. And then the last part of it is the Canadian prep over here. You can start seeing these names, and there's some really good programs here. St. Andrews will play a prep schedule, but they'll also play a lot of the great traditional U18 programs from around the United States. They'll play the independents off that independent prep school list. But you see that these are all the different areas you can play for. A lot of British Columbia, a lot of Alberta. Surprisingly, not as many Ontario when you look at the list as you think. It's mostly out in British Columbia. So hopefully that helps a little bit. When we talk about it, and we were talking today about preps, it was a generic conversation about preps, but probably centered most on the New England prep teams for the most part. I hope that helps. Mike, did I explain that well enough? Or
Yeah, you did. And I think when it comes to like the CSSHL, that's probably comparable to like the New England prep from like the Canadian to US perspective.
Yeah, I agree. Some of those schools actually have a deeper tradition than our prep programs on the East Coast. There's a lot of great programs up in Canada in that league. So let's see what else. We got to wrap it up. We got one left, Mike. We got one left.
Let's make it count.
Got to try to make it count here. You mentioned Facebook pages earlier. Should my son be posting? Okay, if I said this, I apologize. You mentioned Facebook pages earlier. Should my son be posting on social media platforms regularly? When I said Facebook, I probably meant YouTube. Once in a while I do that. I call them different things. You should have a YouTube page. every kid that's a candidate to play juniors or to play college hockey should have a YouTube page that's separate from everything else he does. It cannot be involved with any other. It just should be a place to put clips. And then you put the clip you want to send to a coach on there, but you also have 6 or 7 or 8 different clips on there. So when he gets there, he can click around and look at some other clips that you already have. 30-second clips, 15-second clips. Don't make them big. Facebook, no, you don't need a Facebook page. As far as I'm concerned, there's no need for that at all. So that's that answer. Mike, got anything to add to that?
I mean, I think there might be other platforms like Huddle that would be similar to like YouTube or whatever, but YouTube should be free for them to do that. Huddle, I think you might have to pay. So
yeah, plus it's so simple to grab a link off that and toss it onto everything because YouTube's pretty universally used. And if you send an email to a coach, don't put your file on there with your video because it might not be compatible with whatever. Some of these coaches aren't that bright. They're still using the dot matrix printers and they're still, they're on the first version of whatever software is out there. So don't expect them to be brilliant and don't expect them to understand technology. Most don't understand technology. Send them a link where they can go, oh, just like the monkey with a banana, push the button, get a result. Okay. That's the way you want to make it. And I am not kidding. Make it as simple as possible. If they can't open a file or a video, they don't find somebody else in the office to do it. They just move on to the next, thing. So don't put a full thing in there. All right, let's do one more just for fun. One more.
Let's do it. I'm here for you.
Okay. This one's yours.
If you had a kid with a 4.0 GPA and they were offered to sign with the WHL, would you let them go that route or pass it over and focus on the USHL NCAA path? Or is there too much risk as an import from Canada? This is your wheelhouse again. That's why you had me read it so I could kick it to you.
Oh, I wanted to see you fumble over the WHL thing. So you're smart. You once again, you showed a very good ability to know your limits and stay within your guidelines there or your path.
Western Michigan University.
It makes me so happy that you're proud of that school. I can't tell you how happy that makes me. Okay, so a couple things. I come at it from a very pragmatic, logical way of looking at it. If I can get a Division I school that's quality, that has a ability to meet my needs, okay, realize WHL, just do your homework every year. Take a team from 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago in the WHL. See how many of those players are actually on NHL rosters. Go back 6 or 7 years. See how many of them went to AHL, the American League, and then made it to the NHL rosters. And compare it to the schools that you're interested in the States. Now, the USHL has the most production of all of the leagues as far as the amount of players that get drafted. I'm going to say that again. It has the most production. They got the best output for, you can look this up yourself, go to Elite Prospects, go to the draft, count the amount of draft picks that the USHL has compared to the WHL. Because you can't add all three up there because that's what a lot of people like to do. They say, well, combined, the CHL, which is just the umbrella that watches over the WHL, the O, and the Q, that's not fair. Look at league by league and then look at the USHL. So if you're looking for, and you can play in the USHL, why wouldn't you? You still keep your eligibility. Okay. You can make money in the USHL too, because now you have name, image, and likeness agreements. You can put a few bucks in your pocket because, Danny's Donut Shop will give you $50 a week to talk, to say hi on their commercial or whatever. It's not the money that basketball players and football players make, but there's still NIL money to be made out there now, which has kind of changed and is starting to level the playing field a little bit at a time, incrementally. But you're getting if you're going to a quality school, you're getting a $50,000 to $70,000, maybe $80,000 education. You're getting your food, you're getting your equipment, and you're getting a ton of development time. The biggest difference is the WHL will practice once or twice a week and play a lot of games. They play 80 plus games. The NCAA, you'll practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, play Friday night, play Saturday, usually have Sunday as a light day, and get right back in the schedule again. You're lifting, you're watching video, you are in a development mode. I hate that word, but in Division I college, it works and it makes sense. You are doing everything to develop your mind, body at the same time, and you're still playing college hockey and you're still playing at a high level. And if you're that good, if you're good enough for the WHL and you're good enough to be an elite there, and you're good enough to be on a good Division I team, USHL to a Division I team, your odds don't change for college. In fact, they might be enhanced because you're going to play 4 years in college. If you're really, really good, maybe it's 3. If you're super good, maybe it's 2. If you're an all-star NHL player, you'll play 1 year Division I and you'll move on. So what I'm saying there is, what do you have to lose by going the USHL route and going to the NCAA route? You have nothing to lose, okay? And if you go to the USHL and you don't like it, I'm sure you'll find a team somewhere else that'll take you, okay? Absolutely, you'll find some place to play. So, Mike, you got anything to add to that?
No, I mean, I think you're right on the money where, now it's different. If you would have asked this maybe 5-10 years ago, that answer would have been a lot different, as far as, what the path is. But, I think the first question I would ask is, if it's just to play in the league of the WHL, of course, the better option is USHL and having the ability to go to college and most likely get a full ride with that type of academics and then also athletics. If you're talking about going pro, which is what you spend a lot of time on, if you're like a first round shoe in, that would be the only way I would ever consider going to the WHL. Not because it's a better path or it's a different path or whatever, but in this scenario, it's the only way I would consider it, because if you do go down the path of USHL in college, you still have to attend classes and you still have part of the time hockey, part of the time school. And if you were just, I got to develop and I got to play hockey and then move on to make the NHL right away, then maybe I would consider, grades and education and whatever is not really going to be my career. It's going to be hockey. So I'm only going to focus on hockey. I'll take the WHL route. But okay, I need the guarantee that I'm assuring a shoe-in for the first-round pick.
If you're up in Alberta right now, and I don't know where this question came from, but if you're in Alberta, go outside into the barn, put a hoe against the wall, put a shovel against the wall, and put a pitchfork against the wall. If you can identify all 3 of those, go to college. If you cannot identify all 3 of those, go to the WHL. That'll help a lot. Just a simple test. Simple test. That make sense?
No, it didn't.
Mike,
I don't know what any of those are. I'm not from a farm. I'm a city boy.
You're not a city boy. I'm not going to say
careful.
I know. PG. Hey, folks, thank you so much. We had an awesome group tonight. You guys did an incredible job of asking good questions. We'll take and try to break up some of these questions into smaller bits, put them up on some shorts and put them up on the Facebook page just as their individual questions. If your question didn't get on there tonight, that's because I probably didn't get to a dozen or two dozens of questions, and I was trying to read through the comments to get to the questions that were more open to everybody and a little bit more good for the whole group. So, Mike, good job tonight.
Of course. Not a surprise on my end.
You got better as the night went on. You got much better. Maybe the helmet you just put on or your hat, whatever that is, kind of help. Maybe you got some kind of electronic device in there to spur some little thought process in the brain, little zapper,
Keeps it all together.
Right. That's good. Thank you so much, folks. Know this, you can go to Junior Hockey Advisor on our YouTube page, subscribe there. We got tons of information that pops up there. Not every video that's on that site gets onto our Facebook site. So it's always good to be on our Junior Hockey Advisor YouTube page. Facebook is great for discussion. Lots of questions get asked there every single day. Junior Hockey Advisor discussion. We also have a page you can join that just gives you a little bit more information too. Love to have you involved. If you have anything you have to ask questions on, throw it up on the discussion group. If you need to, you can DM Mike, you can DM myself. We're both on the Facebook page, or you can do it through the Junior Hockey Advisor YouTube page too. Have a great night. Thank you so much, folks, and we'll see you next week.